house, it would be
chores.
cool, but there's a lot of people who have jobs doing this kind of stuff, too.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'll be thinking. It's like that's the chore Olympics.
The chore Olympics. And in all seriousness, I mean, you look at this, the size of the market today for humanoid robots in particular that is estimated to be somewhere between $2 and $3 billion globally, right?
Yeah.
But Barclays looks at this and says over the next couple years, this is going to be a $200 billion market by 2035. You look locally here, there's Boston Dynamics, which I think a lot of folks maybe have seen the videos of the robots that Boston Dynamics have made. Well, Hyundai now has, you mentioned robots making cars.
Yeah.
Hyundai's deployed 25, I think they have a plan to deploy 30,000 robots, humanoid robots, working right alongside actual people making cars.
As long as they're not building the Waymos, I think that I
if
might
the
be
robots
okay
are
with
building
that.
the Waymos,
self-driving cars, then we've reached the problem.
Yeah, when they let robots come to your house, I don't want the first ones. The first ones, that's before they work all the kinks out and all that. I want like the third or fifth generation of robots. I don't want the first ones.
Yeah.
Will there be like a laziness meter? You know, they tested for so many things. We needed a category for like quippy comebacks. You know, I'm wanting my domestic servant robot to give the Jetsons, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, another story folks might have missed this week if they were paying attention to actual news. A little north of us up in Maine, there was a little bit of a moment with a meteorologist there who kind of lost his cool, so to speak. Jason, you're a performer. Do you ever sort of like kind of get the giggles when you're on stage?
No,
you can't
I don't
stop
get the
yourself?
giggles.
You don't get the giggles?
No,
Never happened?
That's ridiculous.
We got a little sound here. For folks who haven't seen this, this is what happened up in Maine. This is a weatherman, a meteorologist up in Maine trying to give the weather and going off the rails.
Yeah. We got to finish up this weather right now. I'm so sorry. What's going on over here? Below 70s, some low 80s, and spots on Monday. I can have this stuff on screen. I've never had this happen before.
I mean, that is stunning.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I love a good high-pitched squeal. Yeah. I think that we need more space for play on the news, so I was happy about that.
You think so? I find myself going back and forth between, we're here right now doing a live show. And if anybody's done a live show, Jason, I'm sure you could talk about this. I mean, it can be a bit of a pressure cooker.
Yeah, 100%.
Sure. I mean, for you, do you ever get nervous when you're up there doing
Not no more. I've been doing it for too long. But when I first, it was just – your heart's just pumping for like maybe an hour before, because you just got that performance anxiety and whatnot,
Hey, say the show must go on, right?
Yeah.
So on the one hand, I do applaud this guy sort of pushing through and continue to try to do it. But also, I mean, it's a bit much.
You got to get under control.
There's a famous saying by comedian Monique, when you do clownery, the clown comes back to bite. So, the original context of this was they were pranking the anchor, and it mishapped into his segment, which is what caused him to start laughing so much. So, it's very – you got to watch how you do those pranks, right?
Yeah, so apparently the prank was this is sort of before they went on the air. They were pranking him with the Charlie Brown wah-wah. I think we got a little sound. Everybody knows this sound. Yeah, famous Charlie Brown sound. We all know that one.
And honestly, Charlie, thanks so much because he's just given us a laugh to come into the future. That was an amazing squeal coming out of that.
Yeah.
Jason, you were just talking about the fact that you don't want robots coming for folks' jobs. What about weathermen coming for your job doing comedy on the air?
No. I would. No, that's not going to happen. That dude can't even keep his composure. He has no chance of taking my job.
No chance of taking your job. You're listening to the Curiosity Desk right now. We're talking with GBH's Tyree Rush and comic Jason Cordova. This is our weekly menagerie of misfit news in case you missed it. Another story folks might have missed this week comes to us from Chicago. And this is actually a story that has not yet fully developed yet. A lot of reporting this week about something that's going to happen in Chicago on Sunday. They're going to attempt to break a world record in Chicago this Sunday with the greatest number of people collectively at the same time taking a shot of I guess a beloved Chicago liquor called Malort. What do we know? Are either of you two have any Chicago connections, Chicago friends?
Do we know about Malort? In my life.
Folks at the library, do we know about this liquor, Malort? Has anybody? Yeah. We got nothing. What do you got?
I'm familiar somewhat with Malort. I'm something of GBH's anthropologists of alcoholism. So it's a local favorite. It's a Swedish design liquor. It has a very earthy, I would compare it to Jaeger if you've had Jaeger before.
Yep.
In that spirit house. I'm not sure why Chicagoans love it so much, but I'm not sure why Chicagoans love anything as much as they do. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I've never heard of Malort. That doesn't even sound like a good liquor. That sounds like a wine mix type of liquor.
Jason, would you be interested in trying a little?
I can't drink right now.
You can't
actually.
drink.
I can't
Jason
drink right
can't
now,
drink right
but
now.
I
How
would.
about you, Tyree?
I will try the Malort.
I can't
All right,
drink
we're gonna.
right now.
We've got if folks are down at the library or watching us on YouTube, you can see one of our producers somehow got their hands on a bottle of Malort. Have a look at that, Jason. We're gonna try some here on the air. I love every once in a while, like I think a lot of people have this experience where you sort of feel like there was a time where the internet was amazing and incredible, and you were like, oh, the internet's so good.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it sort of feels a little bit like a cesspool some of the
Yeah,
time.
it's ridiculous.
Well, sometimes for me, the internet still comes through. So I did a little searching on Malort, and the first thing that comes up, this is like for AI, the core taste. It is described by AI on the internet. The core taste of Malort is described as extreme tongue-constricting bitterness that overpowers the palate.
That's very specific.
Opinions on Reddit regarding the experience of drinking it are mixed. A lot of people compare the shock of the flavor to items like turpentine, bug spray, burnt rubber, or pure regret. So we're going to try some right now.
I wish
here.
I could, but I can't.
Sláinte.
See.
We're going to try some Malort.
What do y'all think?
Oh, it is disgusting. I was ready to go into that and be like, this isn't
Not
that
that
bad.
bad.
It's that bad.
Yeah.
It is that bad. It
smells
does
bad.
taste like turpentine.
It smells bad.
It definitely tastes like something that can kill a bug.
Ooh. Yeah, that is really, really disgusting. Yeah. What do we make of world records in general? Are you in favor of people doing something silly like this, like kind of gathering together in Chicago? Like, obviously, it's kind of cool. I think Chicago embraces something like this. It says, all right, this is a disgusting drink, but it's our disgusting drink. Let's do it. Are you in favor of these kinds of things?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like all the cool records are, set. We need more silly records from people, and I think we need to get more hyper-regional with it. Like, I'm waiting for Boston to kind of come up with our own version of this.
What would the Boston version of Malort be, do we think?
IPA or something.
IPA?
Yeah, everybody drinking an IPA together.
I feel like any given weekend in Boston, somebody's trying to set a world record for how many IPAs you can have in a weekend. I'm sure, So.
I've been familiar with two things that are allegedly Boston, which is Southie mouthwash, if you've heard of this.
Southie mouth. What is
that?
Southie
Southie
mouthwash?
mouthwash, guys. It's Dr. McGillicuddy's menthol schnapps, and apparently you have it with the Gansett, and that is Southie mouthwash.
Southie mouthwash.
Wow.
So it's Gansett and Dr. McGillicuddy's, which I also think of Dr. McGillicuddy's as like as a Boston thing, but apparently it's a Canadian thing.
It is?
It was Seagram's invented Dr. McGillicuddy's back in the day. So, but I totally think of it as here. Now somebody was saying you can mix the Malort with Dr. McGillicuddy's, and you can find a balance point where it is actually both become drinkable.
Okay.
Wow. McGillicuddy's is one of those things you only see people drinking nips of.
I know.
You never see like a bottle of McGillicuddy's. It's always
like,
in
I'll
nips.
take a 750 milliliter bottle of Dr. McGillicuddy's. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a nip type of liquor.
All right, well, before we let you go, I'm going to end with a little bit of a quiz with you two for a story that folks might have also missed this week. So are you two, Tyree and Jason, up for a little quiz here?
Yeah,
Love a quiz.
let's do it.
All right, so here's your quiz. We're going to do multiple choice, and this is a story. This is a real story from this week. So this week, researchers at Southern Illinois University made headlines for a breakthrough developing what item from upcycled plastic water bottles. Okay, you ready? Choice number A, a plastic-based alternative to gasoline. B, affordable and easy-to-build homes. C, edible cookies. D, skin-tight pleather jeans, which I am wearing right now. Skin-tight pleather. So A, gasoline. B, a home. C, cookies. Or D, pleather jeans.
Going with A.
You're going A. So Jason's saying A, plastic gasoline. That is incorrect. What do you got, Tyree?
I'm praying it's affordable housing, but
Also incorrect. Believe it or not, the correct answer is C. And joining us now, we've got a very special guest on Zoom. This is the man behind the plastic-based edible cookie. This is joining us via Zoom. Laiharu Jayakody, Associate Professor in the School of Biological Sciences at Southern Illinois University, the man behind the cookie. Jahiru, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thanks for having me.
So is this true? This is a cookie that you are making out of plastic? Why?
The way you pitch that, yeah. It's quite funny. Yeah. So it is originated from plastic, but it is not the plastic in your cookie. We use that plastic like a glucose, you know.
I don't know, but you use the plastic like a so you're taking plastic like plastic you would find in a plastic water bottle, and then how do you turn it into a cookie? Yeah. How do you make it something we can eat?
Yeah.
So we break down the plastic into a chemical, original chemical, and we have a special yeast strain, probably you use for baking, right? That kind of a yeast strain, we engineered them to eat this plastic-derived chemical, and they converted that into a protein. That protein is similar that you can get from the Walmart, you know, protein bar cookie. Yeah, similar type of protein we can made out of plastic-derived chemical.
So you take the plastic, you feed it to yeast, and then the yeast turns it into a protein, which you then make into the cookie.
Correct. So those protein we take and combine with the other food ingredients, and then we could able to 3D print. What you've seen is a 3D printed cookie.
Laiharu, I need to ask, why are you doing this?
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Very good question. You know, we eat, breathe, and even drinking microplastic is not good. Probably you know that. So per week, like we taking like one credit card amount plastic into our system. That is bad, right?
Yeah.
So plastic is a problem, is a waste. And also we have some other waste like agricultural waste, like corn store. You're not eating corn.
Yeah.
You're eating corn, but you're not eating the corn store. So we're taking those generally not edible thing to the human, but we converted them into an edible form by using microbes.
So what's the big dream here? Is the idea that we're all gonna stop eating like Oreos, and we're gonna stop eating Chips Ahoy, and we're gonna go to the store and buy plastic cookies?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
We lost connection.
We lost connection. We've lost connection. Looks
Back.
like we have lost our connection. Maybe we have the connection back.
Okay. Could you hear me now?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, wonderful. So we have two problems. One is the plastic. We have plastic pollution everywhere. And the other problem is hunger. Probably you don't know, within another couple of decades, we probably not able to produce food the way we think today. So these are the technologies we're going to use to make food out of unconventional material. So think about place. One day we want to go to maybe Mars and Luna to colonize. You don't have any resources. So these kind of technologies, we can take waste and convert it into food. Think about places in Arctic or Antarctic. So you can go there and you could not able to find the food like the other places. So these things could be helped that. Think about the disaster hit area. These small machines can be fit into a vehicle, and then you can go and produce food on demand on site.
How hard is it to make? How expensive is it to make?
Right now, this is kind of a proof of concept, the laboratory level. So if you take all the cost analysis, everything, the kilogram of this protein is about $60. So generally the protein is very different. I mean, the market value is different.
It's a pretty expensive cookie.
Yeah. For the kilogram of this protein, I think it is, expensive. But if you go to the scale and further develop these technologies, we think we could able to bring down into a reasonable price.
All right. Well, before I let you go, Laiharu, the $1 million question, is it any good? How does it taste?
So We haven't tasted yet because we
You
are
haven't
waiting.
tasted it yet? Nobody's
Right, yeah, you can't
Wait
be
a
selling
minute.
cookies.
No.
Wait a second. Hold on a
So,
second. We got
we-
big
we-
news out this week that you've made the cookie, but nobody's eaten it?
Yeah.
So we don't want now. I have a question for you. You guys want to eat this now?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
Okay,
it.
so they're brilliant, but some of the people I'm talking, many I don't want to eat because they don't think this is safe enough.
I don't think it's safe,
Yeah.
but I
We
will
just had
still
Malort.
try it for,
I don't think
for
it's safe.
science. I'll
We're
do
gonna
it
make
for
sure
science.
we're gonna make sure it's safe. So we're doing extra experiment right now to confirm that this is safe. We have enough information that this is safe to eat,
Yeah.
okay, chemically, and also people are looking in taste, structure, everything is good. So hopefully we will allow to eat this sooner. Before that, we have to get the approval from the institute
Wow.
to the other agencies because this is a food. Yeah, it's not. Chalk, but
Once
we
you're given
hope-
the thumbs up, are you gonna try it? Will you be the first one to take a bite?
Definitely.
I don't know, man. I don't like that
Well,
pause.
listen, Laiharu, it cannot be any worse than Malort liquor. So
Seriously.
avoid Malort liquor, and you're going to be fine, even if you're going to eat some plastic cookies. All right, we've been speaking.
It's not a plastic cookies. It's actually made.
I'm sorry, protein cookie based on
Exactly.
yeast converted plastic. We've been speaking
Wonderful.
with comedian Jason Cordova, Boston based. You can find us on Instagram at Jason Cordova Comedy. He's also performing tomorrow at the Wilbur with Jimmy Cash, thewilbur.com for tickets. Tyree Rush, executive producer of GBH News Rooted. Watch all their content on YouTube, Instagram, and starting back up on Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. on the old television, GBH2. And a huge thank you to Laiharu Jayakody, associate professor of Southern Illinois University, and the man lining up to be the first to eat an edible cookie that is made from plastic, but not a plastic cookie, the microbites. Thank you all for being with us.
Of course.
Thanks
for
for
having
having
us.
me. Yeah.
When we return, the wonders of the cosmos are about to come into clearer view with the launch of NASA's Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, hopefully this Sunday. Sadly, no microbites aboard that unmanned mission, but maybe on future missions. One astrophysicist joins us from the scene or close to it in just a minute. I'm Edgar B. Herbeck III. This is the Curiosity Desk. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, we will always love you. Remembering Dolly Parton, the mountain girl who became a global icon, wrote indelible songs, built an empire in rhinestones, and gave away a fortune with no fuss. Then we mark the passing of Tim Curry, the master of camp, menace, and gleeful excess, who made the cross-dressing Dr. Frankenfurter a cult icon. And the BSO settles the score with a new contract. We take on that and more on our Week in Review, today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And M&M Skylights, installing and servicing the full range of commercial and residential Velux skylight products. More information about their installation process and consultations can be scheduled at mmskylights.com. And Standish Village in Dorchester's Lower Mills, providing assisted living residents with programs designed to help seniors stay sharp, social, and independent. Learn more at standishvillage.com/programs.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herbeck III. We're live at the Boston Public Library, and we're streaming live on YouTube. Well, this weekend on Sunday, NASA plans to shoot their latest multi-billion-dollar project deep into the bowels of space, 1 million miles from Earth, and not as some dramatic expression of frustration and abandonment, but on purpose. It's called the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. It's a little under 8 feet long, and it's going to help us discover something like 100,000 new exoplanets. And if all goes according to plan, it'll also unlock some of the mysteries of why our universe is the way it is, constantly expanding, full of dark matter, full of livable planets, ? Joining us now live from Florida, somewhere around the launch site, is Anjali Tripathi. She's an astrophysicist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab and NASA's Exoplanet Science Ambassador. Anjali, it's great to have you back here on the Curiosity Desk. Welcome.
It's great to be joining you here from Florida, Edgar.
So what is the scene like in Florida? How are things down there? Where are you? Like very close to the launch site?
Yeah, so I'm here at Kennedy Space Center, just down the road from Launch Complex 39A, where the Falcon Heavy will lift off on Sunday morning with the Roman Space Telescope if all goes according to plan. So we're just a couple of miles away from the launch site.
Is this, have you been to a lot of launches, or is this kind of a new experience for you, and what are the vibes like?
So I've been to a couple of launches before. The last time I came down to Kennedy was back in 2017 for a resupply mission for the ISS. So it's really exciting that this is my first astrophysics mission to be here for. And this is something where I've seen the mission come together. You know, part of it was built out in California where I've worked. And so seeing something that you've seen in parts, now I was looking at pictures of the rocket just earlier this morning and seeing that it's going to go up to space soon. It's really touching. But also it's just this wondrous place where you've got a wildlife refuge and then fireworks.
Yeah. Are people at this point, you know, when you're just a couple of days out from a launch, are the people there, are folks like excited? Are they nervous? Is it a combination of both?
I think it's definitely a combination of both. I think that a lot of people aren't aware of the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope compared to the Artemis II energy.
Sure.
It's a little bit more subdued, but I think all of the astronomers are so excited. I mean, we all got together and were watching the lunar eclipse last night, and so if people are just gathering together and having this moment to celebrate, it's a big deal, and we hope that this telescope is going to make just a huge impact that we're going to enjoy for decades to come.
Well, you just mentioned, Anjali, that you feel like a lot of folks are not aware of this telescope. As it turns out, you are now live on the radio right now, so this is an opportunity. Maybe you could tell us about this telescope. Why do you think people don't know about it? Is it just that folks are focused on Artemis, or is it somehow inherently something that folks are just, you know, not paying attention to?
I think when you think about NASA, you often think about astronauts, so that connection with Artemis is really immediate. Astrophysics is a sort of a double take, but then of course you think about images from the Hubble Space Telescope, the James Webb Space Telescope, and immediately you think, oh yeah, NASA and astrophysics. And so I think Webb made the news, candidly, a lot because it was behind schedule. Roman is actually ahead of schedule, right? We were thinking it might launch by next
You're doing
May.
too good of a job, so people
We're doing
aren't
too
talking
good a
about
job,
it. Yeah.
so we're
Classic.
low-key sliding in there. And so now we have to hype ourselves up because this is going to be this infrared telescope, kind of like Webb is an infrared telescope. But whereas James Webb is your sort of zoom-in detail lens, Roman is going to be your wide-angle sort of panoramic view. And so you're going to just get gobs of data, right? What Hubble could do in a century, Roman is going to do in a month.
Wow.
And so I think when the data starts coming down, people will start to appreciate it. But until you have those pretty pictures and all of those results, it's hard for people to say, well, you're shooting, you know, a big piece of glass into space. And it's very cool, but it's hard to appreciate in the same way.
Yeah. So all goes according to plan. Sunday is when this sucker launches up into the air. And then where's it going? And how long is it going to take to get there and start doing stuff?
Okay, so I have quite the holiday present for you if all goes according to plan, Edgar.
Okay, lay it on us.
In about 3 months, the telescope is going to get to its final orbit. It's going to be orbiting this place in space called L2, which is a Lagrange point. And all that means is that there was this French mathematician who figured out centuries ago, so well before they knew that we had spacecraft that could go there, that if you tried to balance out the forces between the sun and the Earth, there are these various points. And so the one on the far side of the Earth, so it's kind of like Earth is towing it with us, called L2, where we like to put space telescopes. So it's where Webb is sitting, it's where Roman is going to go. And it means that it's going to go in this orbit. It's about the orbit of the moon, right? It's about 400,000 miles or so around this point L2. And the beautiful thing about a Lagrange point is the physics makes it really easy to keep it there. So you don't need a ton of fuel. You just need a little bit to do what's called station keeping. And then at all times, you'll have the Earth and the sun all lined up that you can block out that light without having to look every which way. And so it makes a lot of astronomy easier because it's only dark everywhere else.
It sort of seems crazy that we're able to work it out. Like, so this is essentially, so it's sort of like orbiting an invisible spot. Is that it?
Exactly.
That's wild.
It's this sort of unstable equilibrium. So it's the sort of thing that we need a little bit of fuel to keep it there, because if we didn't, it would just naturally drift out. But in an ideal world, it would actually just stay fixed at that L2 point. And people worry, will it hit Webb or something like that? But like I said, it's orbiting hundreds of thousands of miles from that point, right? And so it's actually not going to hit Webb. There's enough space. And when it's time to deorbit, you just stop giving it that much fuel and it'll cleanly exit and you don't have to worry about crashing into anything. Wow. So it's really nice. It's sort of a self-cleaning orbit.
You listen to Curiositas. We're talking with NASA astrophysicist Anjali Tripathi near the launch site for NASA's Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope, which is going to launch on Sunday. So what makes this telescope different from the other ones up there? I mean, you talked a little bit about it, but, kind of as you said, I think people think space telescope, if they think about it at all, they probably think of Hubble. What makes this one special, different? What are we going to learn that we don't know?
Yeah, so blasting off from the same pad where you had, the Apollo missions, right, Apollo 11 and others, which had this huge impact on humans and our view of space, in the same way Roman is going to have this really wide-angle view. And so what it's going to do is it's going to look at hundreds of thousands of stars in sort of each frame, right? And you've got these 4K displays. You can think of what's on your TV, but now crammed into 2 inches by 2 inches, and you've got 18 of these. And so it's going to be able to see lots of galaxies. It's going to see stars that are exploding. It's going to look for signs of planets around other stars. And all of these are going to be able to tell us how the universe has been changing. So it's going to answer questions about, like, do we really understand gravity and how physics works? So there have been questions about, is the standard model of physics wrong? And there are indications we may need to affect some change into that, and Roman is going to really help us do that. But I'm, of course, excited that we're going to take the number of exoplanets from about 6,000 today to over 100,000 with Roman within just a couple of years.
I was just about to ask about exoplanets because I know that's really your bailiwick. So, exoplanets, remind us, exoplanets, these are planets that are orbiting other stars, very much the way that our planets are orbiting our sun. We have come to understand that they are very, very, very common in the universe, something we didn't even know 25, 35 years ago, I guess, right? Why should we care about these planets that are so far away? Like, what does it mean to discover 100,000 more?
So I think it's really interesting perspective to think about how when the Hubble telescope launched, we didn't know about any planets outside of the solar system. When the Webb telescope was being designed, we didn't know how common exoplanets were. So Roman is the first telescope where at the time it's launching, we know these planets are out there. But there's still this question, right? Like, are we special? Now, granted, people tell me I'm special all the time and they don't really mean it in that way. But, there is the question of, is the sun with, rocky planets close by, bigger gas giants, icy things further out, is that unique? And as we found these 6,000 planets or so, we found a lot of things we don't see in our solar system, but that's a small count. So Roman is going to give us the census, the survey of lots of different possibilities in the demographics that we can actually start to get a better handle on, are we special, so that we can go to our next mission, the Habitable Worlds Observatory, with this mindset of, okay, if we want to find a place like Earth, this is maybe what we should look for. Is it everywhere? Is it just in a couple of places? So it's that big picture view that we're getting here, both for exoplanets and, as we mentioned, cosmology.
What's the Habitable Worlds Observatory?
So right now we have a mission concept for the next big space telescope, right? So Roman is named after Nancy Grace Roman, the chief astronomer at NASA, who she had this great vision of putting telescopes in space decades before we were able to do so. And the Habitable Worlds Observatory, its current working name, is meant to actually find signs of life, hopefully, on planets outside of our solar system. So it'll be able to take pictures of 25 to 30 planets that could be habitable. And the Roman Space Telescope actually has a sort of science experiment that's going to be a technology demonstration to help pave the way for Habitable Worlds Observatory, or HWO for short.
Okay. What are we going to do if we do find life on one of these other planets? I mean, presumably these are places that are so far away that in some ways I kind of think to myself, is it kind of worse to find out that there's life way out there in a place where we're never going to even be able to get to?
I mean, I think there's always that quote, right? Whether we find life out there or we don't, either answer yes or no is both really profound. And I think the nature of science is that we're constantly exploring. So of course, if we get one detection with HWO or another future observatory, it's just going to ask more questions of finding what's next, because I think we really do want to understand, if we are alone, what made us the way we are. And we have lots of theories. And so getting a handle on that with all of our data will, I don't know, just really enrich us, because more data is never a bad thing.
Speaking of data, I mean, what's the data going to look like that is coming from this satellite? I mean, it's not going to be visible pictures like we get from Hubble, is that right? Who is this data going to be available to? Who's going to be looking at this data and say, like, oh, I'm going to be able to do cool stuff with this?
Yeah, so one really cool thing about the Roman Space Telescope is the data is actually, as it comes down, it's just going to be publicly available immediately. There's no proprietary period for the scientists. So anybody listening who wants to check it out when it starts coming down in about 3 months can. There will actually be pictures. They'll be in the infrared, so it's not visible light, but you'll still get pictures. That wide field instrument, one of the 2 instruments on there, will take those pictures. And it'll also take some spectra. But then there's also the coronagraph instrument, which is that science experiment tech demo that I mentioned, which is actually going to take pictures of planets. So of the 6,000 planets or so we have, only about 100 of them have we actually taken pictures of. The rest we've only seen from the starlight. And so here with Roman, we actually are going to be able to take pictures of Jupiters from space, which is pretty cool. It will only be about a pixel, but it's pretty cool to see more planets with their actual pictures.
Totally. What's a coronagraph?
A coronagraph is a fancy instrument that blocks out the light from a star so you can see what's around it. So if you've caught the solar eclipse maybe this month or in the past, you know that when we have a solar eclipse, the moon is blocking out the light. And so you can see the solar corona, right? It comes from the word crown. And you see that part visible. So a coronagraph is making an artificial eclipse. So you can see a planet which might be next to the star that's so dim it's not shining that you couldn't otherwise see it unless you blocked out that light.
So where are you going to be when this actually happens on Sunday? How close are you going to be to the spot where it's lifting off?
I will be right here at Banana Creek, right? We're in this beautiful sort of marsh with the manatees and the birds and the gators. And so I will be watching bright and early on Sunday morning right here, a couple miles away from the launch pad.
All right. Well, have fun at Banana Creek. We've been speaking with NASA astrophysicist and exoplanet science ambassador Anjali Tripathi. Anjali, thanks for being with us again here on the Curiosity Desk.
My pleasure, Edgar. Take care.
When we return from the sublime to the ridiculous, next month in Lowell, competitors in the city's annual Lowell Kinetic Sculpture Race will face off with their elaborate, absurd racing contraptions through mud, river, and more. We're going to find out all about it next. It's the Curiosity Desk. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Arun Roth. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, 12 years ago, people took offense to a tan suit worn by President Obama. That suit became part of presidential history, but today it's missing. And Bridgewater Little League made their very first appearance at the Little League World Series this season. For this week's Joy Beat, we talked to a father and son who were part of the history-making run. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Heights Crossing, an assisted living and memory support community offering residents experiences aimed at promoting independence, inspiring curiosity, and encouraging connection with others. More at heightscrossing.com. And Innuendo in Natick, presenting Hunter Douglas Duet Architella PowerView shades for homes and offices. Hunter Douglas PowerView automation, measured and installed by their technicians at Innuendo and Innuendo.com.
You are listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News, and we're live at the Boston Public Library. Well, next month there's going to be a mad dash coming to the city of Lowell. 18 or so kinetic sculptures. Now, these are art pieces, but they're also racing machines. They're something that would have made Leonardo da Vinci scratch his chin in bewilderment. They're going to race through city streets, through mud, and across the Merrimack. Witnessing this chaotic blitz is totally free, and organizers call it a free-for-all. Best of all, the whole thing's going to be judged by a very highly qualified team that includes one budding radio host of a show called The Curiosity Desk. Here to explain what fresh hell I have agreed to, is Michael Roundy, the race's co-director. With him is Tom Callori, who's headed back into the thick of it all with Moose, a behemoth black dog sculpture on 4 massive truck tires. By the way, lowellkinetic.com for info. The whole thing happens September 19th, which is also apparently National Talk Like a Pirate Day. I don't know if you two know this, so I've been told. Michael, Tom, welcome to the Curiosity Desk. All right, so what is a like? Where did we come up with this term kinetic sculpture? Why do we call them kinetic sculptures?
So the original race happened in Ferndale, California in 1969 by this guy named Hobart Brown. He was a metal sculptor.
Hobart Brown, that
Hobart
is such
Brown,
a great
name. He was quite the character too. Great mustache. But he made small little intricate sculptures. But he decided he was going to put on a couple of extra wheels on his son's tricycle. And one of his artist friends in Ferndale was like, that looks really cool. I'm going to make something. Let's race him down Main Street on Mother's Day. And so they started that, and it eventually has now turned into what's called the Grand Kinetic Championship, which is now a 3-day race. It covers over 50 miles. It goes over sand dunes. It goes into the ocean. It crosses rivers. And I attended college there. So I went to Humboldt State University, I think it's called Cal Poly Humboldt now. But I saw 70 of these races out there. And when I moved back to New England, I was like, man, it would be great to have a race like that out here. And I started to kind of pitch it around to a friend, and she was like, you need to meet my friend Bianca Morrow, who does a lot of who does art production. In fact, she's with BRM Productions. She has done like the big soccer ball that we saw over in the Greenway.
Yeah, we did a little thing on that.
And so I pitched it to her, and she's like, hold my beer, we're doing this. And it's been, this is our 9th race. We've been doing it for 11 years. We missed a couple of years because of COVID. But it's our 9th race, which is amazing. And we've got somewhere around 16 to 18 teams that are coming this year. 16 to 18
teams.
Yep.
So Tom, you're on one of these teams. So you like what is it? What is the appeal of this for you?
Oh gosh, well, the appeal is definitely the absurdity of it all, and just that realization that as we grow older, we become adults, we can still have fun, we can still act totally idiotic, but still within the realm of intelligence and creativity.
Yeah. So how did you get into this?
I was on a job site in 2024.
What do you do for a job?
Well, I was a carpenter for a company called Black Dog Builders up in Nashua and Salem, New Hampshire. And I was working on a job site, and I heard an ad on the radio for the sculpture race. And I turned to my friend Mark Tarquini, who was my co-pilot on Moose, and I said, hey, do you want to go to this? We went. It was like the crummiest, rainiest, soggiest, most humid day imaginable to want to go and see something, but it lit a spark. And I turned to him and his wife Aaliyah, and I just said, hey, let's make one. They're like, what? I was like, we got to make one. We got to do this. And so the idea was born, and I had this idea of this cartoon dog running.
And so, for folks who can't see, if you're watching us on YouTube, we're floating some pictures in your way. If you're down at the library, you can see them up on the screens. But for folks who can't picture this, what does your kinetic sculpture look like? How big are we talking? Describe it.
Sure. Well, the first thing I say is Moose is a big sassy lady. Moose was the original dog of Black Dog Builders, who rode along with Dave Bryan, the owner, when he started the company. And the sculpture is a 9-foot tall, 12-foot long, giant black dog powered by a tandem bicycle with bright red eyelashes because she is a big sassy lady, a bubble-blowing butthole, a tail that wags and also works as the rudder when it goes in the water. It has 5-foot diameter wheels that look kind of like a paddle boat with 18-wheeler inner tubes inside of them, and it is a sight to behold. It's built all out of post-production material. It's all primarily wood and some aluminum chassis and a ripped-apart go-kart, and it is looks like a big cartoon dog.
So what is the Michael? What is the course like in Lowell? So there are like different stages to this, right? So you got to build a kinetic sculpture that can like make it through different media. So to speak.
Yeah. So we cover 6.5 miles throughout the entire city.
Okay.
And we start downtown and we go through what we call Bone Shaker Alley. It's the cobblestones of Middle Street in downtown. So that gets out all the loose nuts and bolts. And then we head over towards the Songus Arena, where we have a 75-foot long, 8-inch deep mud pit that they have to make their way through. And should they survive that, we go through a number of other neighborhoods and then head over towards the Heritage State Parkway, go down a boat ramp and have to navigate the Merrimack River for about 300 yards. And then they have to race back up onto the beach and go back to the finish line from there.
Wild. And, are there people out along the race course? I mean, what's it like at the event?
I think the start is, it's mayhem. It can be mayhem. In fact, I think the time he went, racers went in wrong directions. But it's, there's a lot of people that are gathered around. And then at the mud pit, we actually have grandstands that are on each side. So it almost has a Coliseum kind of feel as everybody's watching these things kind of make their way through the mud.
Yeah.
And then out at the river, it's it's a great promenade that's over there to be able to kind of look out onto the river and watch these sculptures that are make their way through the water.
Is this like a whole community of folks? I mean, you mentioned you sort of first encountered this out in California. I've read about the fact there's a big thing in Baltimore, which I think has been going on for 20, 30 years or something.
Yep,
in
26
Baltimore.
years. Yep.
So what is this community of people who get into this? How do you find each other, and what is like holding you all together? It sounds like it's a lot of work to put these things together.
Yes, I think it's a lot of people who just want to do stuff with their hands. We have a lot of maker spaces that get involved in these types of things, where they just want to build stuff, and marrying that with something that's also very absurd, with people wearing costumes and giving away what we call bribes, which might be like stickers or things to spectators, and stuff like that. It just makes making things a whole lot more fun.
Yeah.
And we see that throughout the United States. There's 3 races on the East Coast, on the West Coast, and then there's the Baltimore race. And I just heard that there's one in Canberra, Australia, that is just starting up.
No kidding. Wow. Tom, have you like made friends doing this? Is this like, has this sort of subsumed your life, or is this just something once in a while you're like, yeah, I'll go ahead and do a race?
I've been blessed by falling into this community. It's totally opened my mind to creatives and people that are just really willing to make and wanting to problem solve and have some fun doing that. It's not a one-off. It's everyone is really welcoming. It's totally inclusive, and the desire is to, really just keep pushing ourselves and be doing something outside of the realm of just going out to a restaurant or a bar or something like that we seem limited to do as we grow older.
Do you have to be good? Do you have to be good, mechanically minded to get into this world, or do you have folks coming into it for other reasons? You're shaking your head no.
Yeah, I don't think you have to be mechanically inclined at all. I mean, I know nothing about some of the stuff I was doing. Like we were building out of wood and post-production materials, but I would go to the makerspace in Nashua and just said, I have a problem, and 13 people would come out of the woodwork and be like, we have a solution. Let's figure it out. Like if you don't know it, we'll help you.
Yeah. Are there rules to this race? Is there a winner? What do you get if you win?
Good
Eternal
question.
Glory, lots of money?
Yeah, so we have some really kind of ridiculous rules, things like you have to make sure you wear a life jacket when you go in the water, or you have to make sure that you have like a safety triangle on the back. And then we have like the really serious ones where you have to make sure that you have a stuffed animal on board so that if you break down, you have something to hold you and keep you tight. So there are rules where no feet on the ground type thing, and where if you follow all the rules, then you can do what's called acing the race, and that's kind of that's a goal that a lot of racers want to kind of reach, is to be able to ace, be able to make it through the mud pit without putting feet on the ground, go through all the water and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we, from that, which you'll be doing, is choosing the ace champion at the end.
The ace champion.
Yes.
That's sort of the big thing.
Yep.
I mean, it does sound fun. It does sound ridiculous. But, Tom, also, is there some seriousness to this, which is to say, like, it is problem solving. It is a challenging thing to do. Is there a part of you that is, if not trying to win, trying to say, like, no, we accomplished something here?
Oh yeah, like my goal was to get to the start line when the first race we did last year, and just that idea that I could keep pushing, and my crew and my teammates that we're all building, like we were helping each other to get through it, and that there's for the glory of winning, but really it's for the glory of like learning about this community and integrating into it, and just like really pushing myself and getting smarter and better at the things I do.
And everybody out there racing is really kind of, they're in it together. Like if one team breaks down, like another team will pass by. You need anything? You need a ratchet strap or a zip tie or
Is
some
there a
duct
lot of
tape
fixing along the way, like as folks are going?
There's many teams that have broken down and actually have not ever finished the race. Have raced for several years and have
really? And still have not yet. I mean, there's something kind of great about that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just like they keep trying. It's like waiting for Godot. They're
going
to come every year.
Absolutely.
It sort of strikes me, and this wasn't intentional, but if folks have been listening to the whole show today, the first thing we talked about where this was on the show today were these humanoid robot games, and like that, that's sort of, on the one hand, I think it's sort of similar to what you're doing. On the other, it's completely 180 degrees away. I mean, you're talking about robots which are fully mechanized, which are like kind of, yes, humans had to make them, but the goal with making these robots is they're just going to kind of do this stuff on their own, and they're not going to need humans to be a part of it. This, on the other hand, also mechanical, but like deeply human in a way. Like, what is the case for, as we move more toward a world where there are things like humanoid robots that can do stuff, why keep building things ourselves? Why work with your hands? Why work with your brain on your own to make these things?
I think it's just it's the natural. I think your NASA scientist kind of explained it a little bit too. Is that idea of like wanting to see more, trying to learn more about what it is that's going on in our world or in our everywhere. And so I think this is just a natural kind of thing for people to want to just build things and make things. And I think the more we get away from, or the more robots there will be, the more there will be people wanting to do more things on their own, because just making things is a natural predisposition of the human nature, I think.
How about for you, Tom?
Well, I think for me, it's incredibly human to want to make and ask and push myself further, and that idea that I can say I made this. It's not like, what can a robot make for me? It's like, what can I make for myself? Like, how do I actually prove to myself, not anybody else, like that I can make something that is utterly unique and out of bits and pieces of other things and make it work and follow through with that. Like, the success of it is I think, such a human quality that we all endure. Like, how do we get better and not give it to somebody else or something else?
Yeah, and is there anything? There's nothing quite satisfying in the same way as that feeling of like I made the thing.
Yeah.
I did it.
And we have these, and the utterly most amazing thing is our hands and our minds to actually do this.
All right, we've been speaking with Michael Roundy, co-director of the Lowell Kinetic Sculpture Race, and Tom Callori, race contestant, the man behind Moose. Again, folks, September 19th up in Lowell. Totally free and a total free-for-all. LowellKinetic.com for more information. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you so much.
And we're joined here at the library up on the dais by Joyce Cole-Haywick, who is in the hot seat for the Culture Show today. Of course, we're down at the library where the Culture Show on Fridays does their Arts and Culture Week in Review. Joyce, what's going on the show today? I have a feeling I know a couple of celebrities who you might be talking about.
Oh, you think?
Just a thought.
It's the woman we all can't stop talking about. Dolly, and more Dolly.
Yeah.
So we're going to have even more Dolly Parton today. Just can't get enough of that woman. And, of course, we lost another icon this week. Tim Curry also dead at the age of 80. So we'll be talking Dr. Frank and Furter.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk the BSO because the contract settlement.
It's been a huge news in Arts and
huge
week in news this week for
and
Arts
then, of course,
stuff.
the elephants migrating right through the city.
Right there. Right.
And
a
right
couple
on top
blocks
of the roof next door. So. Yeah.
All right. That's Joyce Cole-Haywick. She's coming your way in for Jared Bowen. Culture Show, their Arts and Culture Week in Review right here at the library. Coming up in just under 2 minutes, so don't go anywhere. As for us, that about does it for now. The Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Olivia Corcio, and Hannah Loss. Patty Daniels and Jamie Bologna keep this kinetic sculpture of a show from falling to pieces. Our engineer, Bill Piacitelli. Special thanks to Andrew Maswa, Matty Geyer, Patrick Lally, Juan Jose Cadena, and Hannah Eckert. Thanks, too, to our host at the Newsfeed Cafe, fabulous team at the Lennox across the street, our one and only security team, Darius and Derek. All of you who came to see us at the library, we love to see you. We'll be right back here Monday. We're going to be streaming on YouTube. We're going to be live on the air. Until next time, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show. Next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you and members of the GBH Champions and Beacon Circles. These most generous annual contributors lead the way in sustaining GBH as a public media resource available and free to all. Learn more at gbh.org/support.
In Williamsport, Pennsylvania, cheer on pride, sportsmanship, and camaraderie in the 2026 Challenger Exhibition game of the Little League World Series. Tomorrow morning at 10:30 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Culture Show News Desk, I'm Henry Santoro. Last week, several 100,000 people filled Commercial Street in Provincetown for the annual Carnival and Parade, the premier event of what organizers say is a celebration of LGBTQ unity and community. This year's theme, Deep Sea Disco, and the floats and costumes were an absolute treat to behold. I know because I was there, as were Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey and representatives from the Center for Coastal Studies, who were the grand marshals of the event. There was music and dancing, costumes so creative they could have been on a set of a movie, and a lot of hootin' and howlin'. The parade route went from the east end of P-Town to the west, and spectators like these folks summed it up nicely.
It's the life of P-Town.
Oh yeah, having fun.
What does Carnival mean to you?
Unity. There we go.
Artist, filmmaker, and longtime Provincetown resident Arthur Egley has an annual Carnival watch party at his home, which just happens to be right on the parade route. I asked him how he views the event from year to year.
The rest of the country goes on, and the world stops in Provincetown. And this might as well be the 4th of July, Christmas, everything wrapped up into one. And it's people just let loose and you stay out of the way.
Carnival Week includes costume contests, nonstop dancing, drag shows, poolside parties, and many other events. Next year is the 49th year of the Provincetown Carnival and Parade, and the theme is Cosmic Rodeo. So dust off those chaps and get ready to gallop into town on the horse of your dreams. You know what they say, any Palomino's a Palomino. That's this edition of the GBH News Weekly Friday Afternoon Culture Cast. Next up, The Culture Show, Week in Review, with the one and only Joyce Kulhawick, who, by the way, is a world-class yodeler, live at the Boston Public Library.
I'm Joyce Kulhawick, in for Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, we will always love you, remembering Dolly Parton, the girl from the Smoky Mountains who turned heartbreak, humor, and hard-earned ambition into one of the great American songbooks, then built an empire in rhinestones and gave millions of it away. And we remember another icon. Think gothic excess, gleeful theatricality, and wicked fun. Tim Curry has died. He made the fiendishly fabulous Dr. Frankenfurter a cultural landmark, turned villainy into an art form, and brought wit, menace, and mischief to everything from Clue to It. From there, Meta's mega settlement up to $18 billion, 2-hour daily limits for teens, nighttime lockouts, and new age checks. It's a sweeping attempt to curb social media's hold on young people, but is it only the tip of the Zuckerberg, with a much larger fight over kids, screens, and big tech still ahead? Plus, the BSO has settled the score with a new contract, but does it strike the right chord between artistic authority and musicians' influence? and 100 life-size elephants migrate through the Back Bay, carrying a conservation story from India to Boston and asking how much room we're willing to make for the wild. We take on all that and more right now on our Week in Review.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
And president of the Boston Theater Critics Association and champion yodeler, Hodalodi, Jared Bowen is away. This is The Culture Show, live on 89.7 GBH and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. And
I am Lisa Simmons.
And I'm Kate Dellis.
And away we go. It's just the girls today, a little 9 to 5.
There we go.
We're going over the week's top arts and culture headlines, starting with this.
Jolene, 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 I'm begging of you, please don't take my man.
Okay, Jolene, I love this song. This is Dolly Parton's most covered song, reimagined again and again by artists across generations and genres, and still no version quite escapes the spell of the original. That guitar figure, that desperate plea, that name repeated like an incantation. I see that woman in my head. Dolly Parton died Tuesday at 80 after a brief battle with cancer. She leaves behind one of the most extraordinary careers in American popular culture. Thousands of songs, more than 100 million records sold, 11 Grammys, movies, television, Dollywood, and a business empire built with uncommon instinct and a bottomless cup of ambition, to quote Dolly. But she was also a philanthropist with an enormous scale. Her imagination library put hundreds of millions of books into the hands of children all around the world. She gave millions to disaster relief, medical research, and communities in need. And beneath all of it, the rhinestones, the wigs, the jokes, the shrewd business decisions, was the songwriter, a woman who could write a song as easily as breathing. She could write about poverty without nostalgia, about desire without apology, about heartbreak without self-pity. She did all of that with a depth and clarity which made her songs feel immediate even decades later. So I was wondering if by now there would still be anything left to say about Dolly. She died on Tuesday. It's Friday. Why can't we let her go?
Nobody can. I mean, you can't, because she was this incredible figure, right? She was beloved, and she was beloved because she was unapologetic for who she was, and she opened her arms to everybody. I mean, can you imagine walking through life with that sense of happiness and joy, and every time you meet someone, and everything she did for a reason, right? There was always something behind it. She was a master entrepreneur. She was a master businesswoman. When she was beginning her career, people were like, oh, she's blonde and she's this and she's that and she doesn't have anything. No, behind all of that, she was like, I own that, I own that, I own that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take care of this. And that's why I think people love her. She has had so many touch points with so many people. And you bring up the song Jolene, and it has been done over and over again. But I think about like when Beyonce just did the song, and when Beyonce was trying to get into country music, and I was like, sort of, how did Dolly feel about that? She was like, bring it on, do it. And the way that it was, for Dolly, it was about this bank teller who was flirting with her husband.
Yeah, I didn't know that story.
Yes.
Actually, this came out based on real life.
Yes, this came out based on real life.
Oh, that woman didn't know what she was letting herself in for.
I know. And then it was Beyonce who did it to be like, don't even think about it.
Don't
right?
even think about it.
So it was like these whole, like, I Will Love You had the same thing for Whitney Houston and for her. And she touched so many lives.
Well, I think the fact that we're still talking about it on Friday is because we don't want to leave the feelings that she gives you. Mm-hmm. Like the respite that the internet has right now, looking at her, laughing with her, feeling the things that she felt, that is so rare to actually have a space where everyone feels connected. I don't think we're trying to move on as fast as we are with other headlines.
No, and it's such a relief from so much of the dismal, negative, volatile, tumultuous, awful stuff that's going on in the world. I mean, between natural catastrophes and political division, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Dolly is like points the way.
Mm-hmm. We're bringing back all of her music, right?
Yeah.
So which is very joyful, right? Like you said, Kate. that's what I think too, is that we're not going to let it go, is that we want to repeat that. We want to have that feeling. We want to remember, yes, she was this coal miner's daughter, but she was so much of an icon and a beautiful person that you're sort of like, I should be more of that. Like, how can I be more of that?
And it touches everybody. I'm just hearing now about Buckingham Palace Guard playing 9 to 5 while the Empire State Building is lighting up in pink from 9 to 5. I just learned that they want to rename Nashville Airport the Dolly Parton Airport.
I'm here for that. I am totally here for
9
that.
9 to 5 and Steel Magnolias are currently in the top 5 most streamed movies. It's charting in the U.S. and Canada, that wonderful neighbor to the north. And I just read that Jerry Garcia, believe it or not, in a 1972 Playboy article called Dolly his favorite girl singer, and the Dead covered her song, Tomorrow is Forever.
It's so funny to them, Dolly as my favorite girl singer.
Yeah, right. He's
of
forgiven.
course, right?
He
is forgiven.
Yeah.
But I think that with Dolly, like what we were saying earlier, is the feeling I have most about her. I am envious of the clear self-regulation it must have taken her whole life to dance the dance that she did. Yeah. And the fact that she was able to be so savvy politically, economically, and not create any real enemies. Like, to me, someone who refuses to call herself a feminist because she doesn't want to create any ripples, that would be agitating to me, I'd say, most of the time. But something about the way she does it feels so sincere and
that's
authentic.
it. It's that smile, it's that sweetness, it's that kindness that you don't even know, right, that it's happening. Like we talked about 9 to 5, right, and the creation of 9 to 5.
Well, the whole movie is a feminist anthem.
It is absolutely.
The way she lived.
But she
and
never said
spoke
she wouldn't
louder
use that
than
word.
what she could have said.
Right.
Yeah. And it's so funny to think about the role she played in that movie, because I do think that that's kind of what she does in culture. She's there with Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda, Hanoi Jane. We have like very aggravating examples of a very specific kind of feminism to the mainstream market. And all of a sudden you have someone who is making you laugh, who is drawing you in with her smile and her boobs and her pretty hair, and making something that feels threatening in most other packages feel inevitably correct. How do you do that?
And the irony, of course, of that is you got to look beneath the surface. Don't mistake me for the dumb blonde.
And
that
that's what she always said. One of my favorite movies that she did was Joyful Noise with Queen Latifah, which was amazing. So you think it's just this film about gospel, but it wasn't. It was a movie about music, about who owns tradition. You know, how do we see each other? How do we embrace each other? And it was amazing, but it was a beautiful film. And you know, her husband dies in it, and she, you know, comes together with Queen Latifah and Keke Palmer, which is one of her first roles. But it just shows you that it wasn't just in her music; it was also in Dollyland, or Dollywood. That she created the space where people could see themselves and be seen and be accepted for who they are.
Exactly, that was her whole mantra. I mean, I think one of the deepest ironies for me about her, and I did interview her a couple of times. You'd walk in and you'd see the wig, the hair, the nails, the voluptuous figure, the tight clothes. And somehow, underneath all that stuff, she came across as natural and genuine and straight. That is crazy, because she always knew who she was, and she was always saying, look deeper. This is what I like. This is not exactly who I am. It's like one tiny part. And she gave everybody else permission to do that, too.
I mean, it was amazing. She was an amazing
I just have to say a couple more things. She's the gift that keeps on giving. Broadway production of Dolly, a true original musical, opening December 7th in New York City. And a new song is going to be released.
In like 20-something.
In 20 years. 2046. I hope I'm around to hear it. It's called My Place in History. She recorded it, put it on a CD, and actually put a CD player in there so that people could listen to it in case that form of playback was not any longer available. The woman thought of everything. So let's leave you with a song that talks about what she feels for us and what we feel for her.
Okay.
If I should stay, I would only be in your way, so I'll go. But I know I'll think of you each step of the way. And I
Dolly, we got it. We
And
got to
that song-
move on.
I know, and that song has so many things that go with that song. Look it up.
Many,
Look it up.
So many. So from the rhinestone goddess of country music to the corseted king to that chorus.
Yes,
okay.
you did.
And I will say, it's so Dolly. Tim Curry died this week at age 80. With Dr. Frankenfurter and the Rocky Horror Picture Show, he created one of the most indelible characters in movie history. Campy, dangerous, seductive, completely unbound by convention. Curry carried that same mix of wit, menace, and theatrical mischief into Clue and It, and a career which made him a cult icon. I will say that the first time I ever saw Dr. Frankenfurter, I could not take my eyes off him. That bustier, the fishnets, and the makeup. I just thought he was gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it's a makeup palette I gravitate to.
As a winter.
As a winter
person.
Tell me about the first time seeing him, her.
Oh my God. Oh, so the first time I ever heard Tim Curry, he was the voice of like the Rat King in the Barbie Nutcracker movie. So I knew the voice before I knew Tim Curry. My mom saw this movie when it came out in high school, and she always used to tell me like this was probably the first time I saw queerness, like saw it just in a way that presented in this specific package. It is life changing the first time you see those shoulders and in that corset and like. How beautiful, how undeniably seductive, and therefore undeniably powerful that person is. I think in a very similar way to Dolly, you have all of this extravagance externally that's anchored by a deep personal power.
Yeah.
And
it's hard to deny how compelling it is.
No, and it's true. And I mean, I feel like they were both larger than life, right? But they always made other people feel seen. And I think that character and who he was, Tim Curry, and Susan Sarandon talks about him as just being this most kindest, gentle person and the villain that you always wanted to be with. It's like secretly you were like, I love him. He was like that perfect villain. But you're right. I mean, that voice, he was Nigel Thornberry in the Wild Thornberries. He was, he did Lickety, the Lemony Snicket.
Lemony Snicket.
Lemony Snicket. Bibbidi Bibbidi. Hibbity Bibbidi.
We know who we mean.
Thankity. Lemony Snicket, the series of unfortunate events. And I feel like people don't understand that too. He had suffered this stroke. He still went on to do work, right? And it's true. I mean, in Clue, I love Clue. I think that's like one of my favorite movies with him in it too. But I really think it's the same thing. He was unapologetic of who he was. He was open to everybody. He was kind. And he just brought so much to every single character. And Rocky Horror, I love the idea that he was a soprano when he was a boy.
Yeah.
And then he had to stop singing because he became a baritone.
And his voice was gorgeous.
And then he gets on Hair and he lies his way and he says, I have an equity card. Yeah, sure. And then they realize he doesn't, but they realize how amazing he is, so they let him stay.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Richard O'Brien, who's in Hair, then wrote Rocky Horror Picture Show. I mean, it's this whole, like his life was just sort of this whole, and he was never from a theatrical family, right?
I think his mother was a secretary.
Yes, his mother and his father was in the armed services and moved all over. So they were sort of like, this was an itinerant kid who like understood like every time he had to go somewhere he had to make friends and he had to like understand and get to know the spaces that he was going to be in. So that was all part of his personality that he brought to everything that he did, and you could see it in everything that he did.
Well, it's a wonderful point that you're both making, and this has to do with the acceptance that was generated by him being his true self. What a powerful example that is. He said he got lots of mail from people who were trying to navigate their own sexuality, their own gender expression. And he was trying to do the same thing, and he was able to do that through Dr. Frankenfurter. And I just would like to talk a little bit about how that landed in 1975, when leading men were Robert Redford, Clint Eastwood, Burt Reynolds, and Dr. Frankenfurter, Tim Curry.
But that's because there was a space for that, right?
Well,
so you were right.
Not exactly, but he kind of crashed.
But he crashed through it. But I'm saying that there wasn't a space, but there were people that needed that space. Right?
Exactly.
That's what I mean.
And I think he's a testament to the like forever appeal of audacity when it is paired with an open invite.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There's something so ballsy about letting yourself be so visible and be comfortable with attention that when you pair it with a warmth, with an acceptance, clearly you accept yourself, and you are therefore giving me permission to accept mine. I mean, it's temptation.
And I think Rocky Horror did that also. And not
and
just
that whatever
but the
you
Rocky
are-
Horror Picture Show opened that space.
Absolutely, and
for
so
everybody,
many
yes.
people flooded in the doors and just celebrated that kind of liberation that everyone was needing, and the message always, and none of them would say it was a message, that somehow, and it's in the lyric of that song, "Sweet Transvestite from Transylvania," you can't tell a book by its cover. In other words, this is not all that I am. This
Just like
is
Dolly.
one piece. Exactly. So the greats. All right, on to the artist who made dots, mirrors, pumpkins, and infinity into a universe all her own. The artist Yayoi Kusama died earlier this month at the age of 97. The Japanese avant-garde artist spent more than 7 decades turning obsession and repetition into one of the most recognizable bodies of work in contemporary art, from her polka-dotted paintings and sculptures to the immersive infinity mirror rooms that made viewers feel as though they had stepped outside the limits of space itself. Kusama first came to New York in the late 1950s, plunged into the avant-garde, and spent the rest of her life making work that was at once deeply personal and instantly public, and also provoked a lot of debate, I will say. It's been questioned, is the work too commercial, is it superficial, or is it really substantive and provocative in the best way? Must say, complicating her legacy were racist comments that she expressed in her autobiography, for which she later apologized and then got more on the track of peace and love, etc., and acceptance, etc. But she certainly can be applauded for breaking ground in terms of minimalism and immersive installations. We've seen her work. I know you have. Just tell me about the experience of being in an immersive mirrored room or surrounded by polka dots.
Excuse me.
We're so polite.
Exactly. God forbid a woman speaks first.
Yeah.
I saw an infinity room in the Phoenix Art Museum probably when it first, 2000, 2001, whenever it was my first immersive art experience, period. And to a little girl, an infinity room filled with starry firefly-like lights. I mean, it captured my imagination. I pictured it immediately as soon as I heard that she died. Pop art is a complicated thing. I do think that there's perhaps more skepticism we give her than, say, Andy Warhol, and maybe that's worth pointing out or thinking about. But also her legacy was more complicated in a lot of ways. An autobiography is a pretty damning place to put a racist thought.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, she mounted an exhibit in the early 60s, and it was stuffed fabric phalluses, essentially. And she shared that exhibit, not that particular exhibit, but also as part of the exhibition was Andy Warhol. But the person everybody wrote about was Kusama. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. And here's this woman who comes from a conservative Japanese family, right? And says in like 57, I'm going to go to New York. And then she comes to New York, and she's right with the likes of Andy Warhol and all of these other, incredible artists that were really getting seen. And then she comes home in 1973, and she has a mental illness. And this is what's amazing to me. She has... actually, I think she was basically diagnosed with obsessive compulsive neuroses, but that's because she saw dots when she was a little kid. And then to take this fear of what was in her life when she was younger and turn that into something that is so beloved by so many people. And then, I mean, you're right, her life was so complicated, but her art is so much a part of what makes her, how you understand her life is to be complicated. I love the fact that she teamed up with Louis Vuitton to create product for Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton loved her, said her pieces, her work was joy. And after COVID, they teamed up with her, and then they teamed up with her again after COVID because they really wanted some of their pieces to have her design on it. And they talk so highly and so beautifully about her.
Was it the dots that she did?
Yes, it was the dots. And they created this whole soft sculpture over the Louis Vuitton building in Paris with her putting dots on the building. But I mean, I think for me, I did the Affinity Room when it was here at the ICA, and I'm so glad the ICA bought it and it's part of their permanent collection, because it really is something when you're walking through there, like you said, Kate, it's like magical and it's wonderful, and you can sort of get lost in it, and it's something that we need right now, right? We need these spaces back again where we can just sort of like ebb and flow through them.
Well, she actually gave us kind of a roadmap to understanding her art, because she talks very openly about committing herself to a psychiatric hospital. She did that in the 70s, came out, I think spent some time there
and then
subsequently.
lived there and ended up living
Lived there, exactly. But she says, and it's so revelatory to me that her art comes directly out of her need to heal from early childhood trauma, where I guess her mother made her observe her father, who was a philanderer, and made her observe his extramarital affairs. Consequently, she develops this revulsion for sex and sexual things, and then creates this sculpture where it looks like phalluses are invading or infecting the world. I mean, we get this, and I think it's relevant even now in the political landscape.
Oh, absolutely. The mold of masculinity.
Yeah, you got it.
Exactly.
You got it. And the dots, she hallucinated dots. And the only way she felt she could control them was through her art, when she put a boundary around them in a painting. And so then they were sort of under control.
I mean, she was basically the pioneer of experiential art, right? I mean, it's amazing what she had accomplished and what she had done in her lifetime, and what she's brought to us. And now we're going to see it again, correct? At the 90th.
Thank you. Kusama's work is going to be on display as part of the ICA's 90th anniversary celebration. The piece is called Love is Calling. She did it in 2013. It's one of Kusama's signature infinity mirror rooms, and it is part of the ICA's permanent collection, but it is not always on display, but it will be on display coming up.
Go see it. It's quite extraordinary.
Check it out. So coming up, Pachyderms on Parade, how a work of public art can teach us about conservation, coexistence, and making room for the wild. That is coming up next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
This week on In Common, the rare mental illness at the center of the Lindsay Clancy trial.
Postpartum psychosis is a medical illness that is potentially lethal but highly treatable.
Also, primary election fights from Western Mass to the Cape.
He was kind of attacking him for being a Republican when 10, 20 years ago, you wouldn't do that.
And a visit to the birthplace of fried clams. Listen Saturday at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Brookmeadow at Cobb Corner, an assisted living community offering wellness, care, and support services, including an on-site fitness specialist to help seniors stay physically active. More at brookmeadowslr.com. And the David M. Rubenstein Americana Collection in support of the JFK Library's exhibit Declaring the Revolution, America's Printed Path to Independence, featuring historic documents that inspired the Declaration of Independence. jfklibrary.org.
And New England Recovery Center, providing inpatient addiction treatment in state-of-the-art facilities located in Westboro, Mass. Learn more at newenglandrecoverycenter.org or by calling 1-877-MY-REHAB.
Whether you prefer to read, listen, or watch, however you get your news, the GBH News app is your home for coverage of the issues that matter most. Download the GBH News app today on the App Store or Google Play.
Welcome back to The Culture Show. I'm Joyce Kulhawick, in for Jared Bowen. We are live on 89.7 and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. I'm joined by Culture Show contributor Lisa Simmons. She's the artistic and executive director of the Roxbury International Film Festival and program manager at Mass Cultural Council. I'm also joined by Culture Show producer Kate Dellis in her debut appearance. Let's hear it for Kate. Usually see her over there. I'm still counting you to tell me to go to break.
Yeah, I am counting the clock, don't worry.
If you are just tuning in, we're going over the latest arts and culture headlines, which includes this. And that, of course, is Andris Nelsons leading the Boston Symphony Orchestra in Beethoven's Ninth Symphony with its jubilant Ode to Joy at Tanglewood back in 2016. Ode to Joy, of course, is a hymn to fellowship and unity and joy, which emerges at the end of the Ninth Symphony after earlier darker themes in the piece. And so it goes with the BSO of late. The abrupt dismissal of Nelsons this spring fractured trust between musicians and management, and that rupture followed the orchestra all the way into intense contract negotiations. Well, last weekend, musicians unanimously authorized the ability to strike. By Tuesday, though, the two sides had a deal. More than a settlement over salaries and pensions, this new 3-year contract gives musicians considerably more influence over artistic planning and a much stronger hand in choosing Nelson's successor, while management still retains ultimate authority. I will say that I was at Tanglewood this past weekend, and they did play the Ninth. It wasn't Andris Nelsons. It was, a guest conductor. But I could feel the tension in the air as they were navigating through authorizing a strike, which luckily did not happen, but it would have been the first in their history. And I'm so relieved to know that they've come up with a settlement. But the devil will be in the details. This is a big, pivotal moment for the BSO.
This is not just huge for the BSO. This is huge for orchestras all over, right? This
Absolutely.
is sort of like this new model that you're going to give musicians more artistic control over who's going to be conducting them. And when you think about it, it makes sense. I mean, these musicians are working for the symphony, for years and years and years and years. They're employees of the symphony, so why wouldn't they have a say? And so this is I think you're right. This is a 3-year contract. They're getting money, they're getting a raise, and all of that's great. But I think you're right. It's sort of like this is a whole new direction for these types of. And it could be any types of music. Any legacy institution is going to be looking at something like this.
Not just who runs it, but what is the content?
Right.
What is the place for symphonic music now?
And who gets to decide what that is?
Who decides, but what is it?
So, I briefly dated a violin prodigy when I was in my early 20s.
Do tell.
Yeah, well, by the time I met him, he was a rocker. He'd foregone the orchestra.
Of course, see, because of
you
this.
know what?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You hit on something.
That's what I'm saying. Is that I remember on one of our dates walking around New York, he was like, well, at a certain point, you just kind of feel like you're a piece in a museum. And I thought he was really cool about it. But I do think there is some truth to if you have the artistic instincts of someone who can communicate that much through music, through composition, you're probably a person with opinions about what you want to be making and how you want it to be presented.
Well, exactly. And especially if you've taken so much time, it's been your whole life. Your whole life has been to be a musician, to be a violinist, to be I don't know, whatever. But you've spent your whole life doing that. So why shouldn't you have some sort of say in that? I mean, it's really interesting, though, that they say that Nelson just wasn't aligned. It wasn't aligned with what we had in our vision for the future. But they haven't said what their vision of the future is, right? So this is part of it, too. It's sort of like you're not aligned with something, but what we do know is that we need to branch out. We need to bring in new audiences. We need to make sure that we are up to 2026 and if not 2029. And how are we doing that? And how are we bringing in new musicians? How are we bringing in new music? Because the reality is that 10% of the audiences and the ticket buyers are Black and Hispanic. That's it. 10%. So how are you now bringing in new conductors?
They're coming up with new ideas. I mean, in fact, there's sort of a new annual tradition now, and everybody's well aware of this, I think. An annual concert dedicated to the Mexican celebration of the Day of the Dead. This October is going to be their third. It was a very big hit musically and also culturally, but it speaks to how to bring more people into the hall. Yes. And even if those people don't become subscribers, I feel like you're still seeding the landscape. There may be, 10 kids in there who somehow hear this symphonic sound and decide, wow, this is for me, or I want to be a violinist or a rocker or both. And is there room for rock and roll and a violin on stage at the same time? Absolutely. I think so. Is it just Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms, or can we throw in Bad Bunny, Beyonce, and I don't know, Amy Tisch?
I struggle so much with it because a part of me feels like absolutely the whole thing about art is that it moves with culture, and then and that it adapts, and that it's responding to the people that's in the audience. But then you also, I think back to the Timothy Chalamet ballet and opera stuff earlier, and I think about all of the ways we fought against that or pushed back against that as a culture, because it felt wrong to say that classics or classic art forms aren't something that was worth preserving.
Nothing needs to be lost. It can all be
there it
built.
is.
And that's how I feel
Yeah.
too. I mean, I think that's
We
really
need
important.
to
Do they still have the petting zoo?
grow.
I used to.
I don't
No,
know.
it was great because they used to bring in the kids so that they could see the instruments and they could touch
Oh,
the
I
instruments
sus-
and
yes,
they could play the instruments, which is another way to get.
I was
kids-
picturing something different.
Oh,
Okay.
no, it's not like a
Well,
giraffe.
I will
we
say
are going to be
that,
talking about elephants, but this is more that they would come and that's a way to get them into
There
and
are
interested in.
many
Yes.
things that can be done. Again, the devil is in the details. The season will go on. It opens September 17th with Andres Nelson's and Yo-Yo Ma.
Yes.
And Andres is still there for another year, and we will see what happens. But we're wishing them well, and I'm so glad this
absolutely.
contract has been settled so far. So from Symphony Hall to another kind of symphony, humans and elephants learning how to live in concert. 130 life-size elephants now line Commonwealth Avenue, handmade in India and modeled on real herds. The Great Elephant Migration uses public art to tell a larger story about conservation, coexistence, and making room for the wild. Now, this has been here since August 4th. I didn't see it until the last week. I'm riding down the street. I'm riding down Com Ave, and there between Dartmouth and Fairfield, suddenly I'm thinking, how will I see it? And there they are, emerging from the trees. And I got to tell you, it was so profoundly moving to me.
When I first saw it, the scale, right? Elephants are so big, and watching people interact with them along that mall area, seeing them pet, walk around, how similarly we move actually as kind of a herd down a common mall. You know, it really reminded me of how much our city needs to incorporate both art and nature in order to feel vibrant, in order to feel relevant.
And what a part of the city, right?
In the
This
Back Bay. I mean, I
very
think it's
upscale, refined, historic. These elephants actually, to me, looked right at home.
And I think it's so important that they are where they are, and I think that a lot of people don't necessarily think about the Commonwealth Mall as somewhere to go, and I mean, there's a bunch of beautiful statues in there. There's some incredible public art there, but I think that instead of having them on the common where they're just sort of like in a space, you actually feel like you're moving with them as you're walking with them. They are unbelievable. They are majestic. And I'll have to say, I mean, I love the fact that, it comes from indigenous India. It comes from a weed that is invasive that they figured out something to do with.
I love that.
It's pretty incredible. And that these artists, and that they've, had like 300 some odd artists doing this. But the money that they're raising is for human and elephant conservation, like that people can live together. And I have to say, just really quickly, I was in Tanzania. I was doing some teaching with Babson, and this is an issue. This is an issue where elephants would come into the villages, and you had to figure out how to get the elephant out of the village so that the kids could go to school. And the only people that could do that were the Maasai. The Maasai were the only ones that could come and move the elephants. But it's because there's so much more connection and with people living with elephants. So I love the fact that this is going to not pushing the elephants out, but conserving this relationship between elephants and humans.
Well, you're speaking to something that we need, and what public art does.
Yes.
It jolts us out of our comfort zone, takes something familiar and makes it new, makes it unfamiliar in some way. I love that they're using an invasive plant to do something really good with.
And it's so tactile. Like
yes,
it begs to be touched, and you see all the little kids interacting and mingling with things, and it's a perfect way of recycling things that otherwise we would say.
And I love this one quote that someone said who saw the elephants. He said he described public art as a way to slow things down and bring people into a park that he thought was underused for art.
Yeah. Exactly,
that
whole
it slows you down.
Beautiful mall. And think of all the organizations in our city. I mean, kudos to our city that had to come together. The Boston Aquarium. Hats off to the Edgerleys who own the Quinn.
Is a major philanthropist in this. And Meet Boston. Meet Boston was a
big... I mean, everybody had to really coalesce around this. It's not an easy thing to get consensus about, but boy, did they do or to move or do the right thing. Okay, so I did not know, but they are on sale. And apparently all the baby elephants have been sold. They go for $1,000 a piece. So you've lost out, Lisa.
What about the one on the top of the Lennox?
The big
there is one on top of the Lennox.
I suspect the Lennox may own that. But the big ones, the mamas, are going for $25,000, and I think some of those are still available.
I do not think that would fit in my apartment.
I mean, it is the same logic as like adopting old dogs.
Yes.
All the puppies are taken.
All right, we'll take her.
It's a little big, but
they're so beautiful. But
Yeah.
you can also commission them. So even if some of the babies are sold, you can commission them, and there are artists right now that are willing to make more of them and able to make more of them before this continues. I think on its tour in 2027. Are they going to Washington? I think it's. Yeah, we're going to find out. But in any case, I will say that they are beautiful.
Go
they
see them.
almost look
Go.
alive.
Mhm. Go.
They,
You gotta see them.
I actually found one, and I think its name was.
Oh, that's the other thing. They're all named
They're
after
named.
real elephants.
They are
Oh, they're modeled after
They're
real
modeled
elephants.
them.
So you have these like slight variations in their eyes and in their expression. And elephants are just, I mean, even these ones are so wise and they're so gentle.
And they're so social,
Yes.
which is what people forget. So every
Yes.
time I see a lonely elephant at a circus,
They
you
are,
know,
and when you see them in person, I mean, they're just majestic.
I stopped covering circuses 40 years ago for that
Good,
reason.
yeah.
And I said I won't do this as soon as I realized that was true. Anyway, all good. You can take one home.
Joy
That's
and
the
happiness.
bottom.
You got 25
That's what
grand,
we
yeah.
need. Joy and happiness.
So coming up, Meta's mega settlement, billions of dollars. Talk about elephantine, settlement. New limits for teens and a much bigger fight over what social media owes young users. That's coming up next on The Culture Show, so stay with us.
Icelanders are once again debating whether to join the EU. Supporters say it would be good for business, but the fishing industry disagrees.
We are going to see European fishing vessels here in Iceland. We will see them in Icelandic waters that we are not used to.
Sharing the seas means cutting into profits. Hear that story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Modern Pest Services, providing integrated pest management for Boston homes and businesses. Modern Pest uses a prevention-first approach to seasonal pests to help target the source of the problem. Learn more at modernpest.com. And Harvard Business School Baker Library, featuring an exhibit on Muriel Siebert, the first woman to buy a seat on the New York Stock Exchange, open to the public. Details at library.hbs.edu. And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865.
I'm Callie Crossley. All too often, a lot of very important news flies under the radar. Learn about the small stories before they become big headlines on my podcast, Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, available wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Joyce Kulhawick in for Jared Bowen. If you are just tuning in, this is The Culture Show live on 89.7 and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. I'm joined by Culture Show contributor Lisa Simmons and Culture Show producer Kate Dellis. And we are going the latest headlines in our Arts and Culture Week in Review, which includes, of course, Meta's mega settlement. For teenagers, the deal could mean a very different experience on Instagram and Facebook. 2-hour daily limits, overnight lockouts, stronger proof of age requirements meant to keep younger users from simply sidestepping the rules. That settlement is part of a $17.1 billion agreement over allegations that Meta designed its platforms in ways that harmed young people. Yes, it has been documented. We know this has been addictive. If the court approves it, Massachusetts could receive up to $516 million with $366 million guaranteed over the next decade for youth mental health services, after-school programs, digital wellness, and related efforts. This is a good beginning, okay? Good news for everybody.
Yes. Oh, I think so. I mean, I think it's really interesting that, and it's just like the other thing, sort of like, I mean, when we were talking about the BSO, this is amazingly something that is going to have complete and complete connection to everything like TikTok and Instagram and everything like that. So the fact that Meta settled because they didn't want to go to trial, because they knew if they went to trial, it would have been bad for them, right? And they would have had many more regulatory things that were happening to them. And so the fact that they said yes to this, and is it going to make a difference? I think it's a start. I think it's a problem. I think it's totally, we see that what social media does to kids and mental health issues. And I think that we have to start thinking about who's responsible here. Are the parents responsible? Is social media responsible? How much can parents keep their kids off of social media? Mm-hmm. How much should we hold Meta and people like this responsible? Because it is addictive. It is an addictive thing that kids, but not just kids. Adults doom scroll.
Yeah,
I doom scroll. It's not just kids that are doing this, and it's hurting all of us in the long run.
I'll call my parents after a Saturday of like scrolling for 5 hours on Instagram, and I'll be like near tears, being like, I feel terrible, and I have no clue why. And I'll be like, what'd you do today? I'm like, I scrolled on Instagram Reels for 4 hours and didn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
I think it is my opinion that it is firmly the fault of the companies that are engineering an addictive product. Mm-hmm. I don't know how a parent fights the culture that they have created. Mm-hmm. And I also am skeptical about how much regulation they're going to implement when there's money to be made. What kind of workarounds are going to happen? Mm-hmm. I think the company's Meta's chief legal officer, CJ Mahoney, said that because teens move fluidly across dozens of apps, we need an industry-wide solution. Therefore, they're calling on their industry peers, TikTok, Snap, and YouTube to implement this new framework. That is a lot of billionaires that have to agree that they don't care that much about money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all you have to do is read that book, Careless People, and you'll understand just how venal this is. They just don't care. It's all about greed. And this is not a bad deal for Meta, as you mentioned, right. Lisa. They didn't have to go to trial. They didn't have to admit wrongdoing. The payout's going to go over 10 years, so this is still only a fraction of their profits annually. It doesn't hurt them that much, but they still do have many settlements and individual lawsuits to go.
And
so we're going to have to stay on them. We all have to be
and $5 billion of it
here.
Is conditional based on TikTok and YouTube. So, I mean, there's so much going on
here.
And
then now Meta can sort of claim, well, they're setting the tone and the pace. They've taken responsibility. But, we will see. We have to stay on them. We are all in this together.
Yeah, I think the real thing from this is that we are codifying how the culture at large feels, which is terrible about this about the situation we're in. So any win is motivation to keep pushing.
Yeah. So from Meta to another uneasy bargain with big tech, Hollywood writers, directors, and producers are taking jobs training AI to do the very work they've spent careers learning: writing, pitching, planning productions. The money can be good. Jobs are down. The catch, they may be accelerating their own obsolescence. So what do we do when the people teaching the machines are the very people those machines may replace? I've never been asked to train anything on AI to critique a play or a movie, and I swear they can't do it. No AI can have a human experience. But Kate, you've been asked to do this.
Oh yeah, many times. Most recently, it was to be fair, it makes good business sense. Yeah. I was approached by a businessman who has a stake in a podcast company, right? And so he knew that I did audio production, and he was seeking someone to essentially vibe code. He wanted to repackage the back catalog of podcasts and have the ability to have like clips edited automatically without having a producer. And it makes great sense. It's very pragmatic, and it is literally my job.
Yeah. And did you do it?
No, I did not.
No, you did not.
But I don't know how wise that is. You know what I mean? Like, it
well,
feels
it depends,
inevitable.
Right.
What's going to happen.
And that's exactly what's happening to these producers, right? It's inevitable. They're saying this is coming whether I participate in it or not. Yeah. I mean, the problem is that there are, there's an economic collapse going on in the creative industry that's pushing people to make these decisions, right? I mean, I feel they're talking about that LA's shoot days are reportedly fell 48%. That is huge from 2021 to 2025.
Yeah, after the writers' strike, after the pandemic, nothing is fully rebounded.
No, nothing is fully rebounded.
And people have found other ways to do things.
And they have to feed their families. And so it's sort of like, it's so funny because during those strikes, they were like, no AI, no AI. And now it's sort of like, okay, I can do this because I need to feed my family, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to necessarily lose my job because they need humans, right? AI needs humans. So what it will do, it's going to do what the writer's strike was all about, was that you're only going to need 3 people in the writer's room instead of 8 people in the writer's room, because then we're going to have AI in the room, and they're going to do that with producers. That's what the thing is. So, I mean, they're still going to be here. They're still going to be needed, but it hurts my heart.
It does and it doesn't. I can't say I'm feeling as sentimental about it as all that. I mean, honestly, if AI can do scheduling better, transcribing better, accounting, permitting, all this kind of clerical work that's just time-consuming for a human being, you know what? Have at it.
But those are people have those jobs.
Yes, but you know what? People used to drive horses and buggies too.
Right, and people used to work in factories.
They will find other things to do which only human beings can do. And I say we don't want AI-created actors or writers or even editors, because that involves creative work that's based on a certain kind of subjective, spiritual, psychological, and emotional experience that you have with material.
If
that
what
is
you're
nothing
making,
that
if what
AI
you're making
can
is
do.
art
Yes.
versus content
Exactly.
versus something that's just built for sensation and stimulation.
And they're just building, and they just need it for content because they are teaching these
Yeah,
AI
but you know,
bots
it's
and how to
probably
write.
junk stories that end up on the air, and those people shouldn't be writing anyway.
Oh.
You know, there's plenty of people
who doesn't
who are
watch
writing.
those stories?
Yeah, I do like a good junk story. Every once in a
I
while.
don't. Not enough time in the day. Not enough time in the day. Anyway, well, speaking of online and AI help, kids are now going way beyond back-to-school basics. A new backpack, sneakers, and school supplies used to be the thing that you would do. But for Gen Alpha, that shopping list looks more like a luxury haul. TikTok and influencers are steering kids toward $165 Air Jordans, $80 backpacks, and other very specific must-haves. So by the time the parents get to the checkout line, they're not just buying the essentials, they're buying the look, and they're paying a lot more for it. And this bleeds over into dormitories, how people are designing their dorms. The humble dorm room is having a makeover moment. The days of the institutional twin bed, the cinder block walls, the fluorescent lighting, oh my gosh, forgive me, are giving way to upholstered headboards, custom bedding, coordinated lighting, and in some cases, professional decorators are being brought in. Do you remember what your room looked like in college?
What happened to the milk crates?
Oh, yeah. Oh, speaking of, I have pictures. So I did something this morning. I have images of my freshman dorm room at Barnard College, Brooks Hall. And I also tried to, I ran through AI and I was like, hey, can you design for me a luxury dorm room with my favorite colors, orange, yellow, and off-white, and put it and
oh my gosh,
help me understand what Brooks Hall would look like.
This is not it.
This is what they gave me.
Oh my
Compare
gosh.
that. So that is, for those who, it's a lot of throw pillows. It's a lot of framed
Wait,
walls.
is that
It's
the
a lot of
redo, or is
plants.
that what it looked
the
like?
redo.
No, my God. Show them what it looked like.
Oh.
That's what my dorm looked
Oh!
like. Look at that.
Exactly.
See that bedspread? I got that
Wait.
from IKEA. That's an Amazon
I mean,
rug.
this is unbelievable. I mean, the dorm room is unbelievable. But the fact that this mother, who was interviewed by Vogue, said that her 14-year-old daughter influences roughly 50% of the family's discretionary spending.
Wow.
50%.
Yeah.
That is crazy because, and this is sort of like the same thing when we were talking about in terms of like who's responsible, Meta AI, who's responsible. Parents don't even want to get in the fight. They don't want to get into the conflict about what's happening. And they're so afraid that their kids are not going to be, you know, socially connected or up on everything. It's like it's like FOMO on steroids, right?
It's
and so,
terrible.
but I just
It's so competitive.
and now the children are showing the parents instead of the parents showing the children, and the parents are like, you know, and all of these places are marketing to kids to get to the parents, which I think is. There's something seriously wrong with the society when we have this flip like this, and that kids are making these decisions for their parent spending and marketing, and people are marketing to that.
Everybody wants to present.
Yes.
Everybody
It's
has
about
an
content.
image. It's about
creating content.
It's about how we look at ourselves and what we want to project to the world.
Well, I think about whenever I see stories like this, I always think about that quote from Silence of the Lambs. We begin by coveting what we see every day.
Oh, yes.
And the reality is we see a lot more every day than we ever have.
Yes. Yeah.
And the amount of bravery it takes to be a college student and to submit yourself to the ego death of relearning a whole new community, a whole new social structure, that is so hard. It's always been hard.
And you're doing it on steroids in terms of social media.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just doing
you're
it.
replicating the image
your
of
friend,
your life.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think that what was interesting in this Vogue article we were reading, Vogue Business article, Deloitte found that the non-tech users among us, about 20%, intend to spend about $381 for back-to-school shopping, compared to $494 for consumers using search engines like Google.
Right.
And then if you're using AI, then it comes up to $737.
Oh,
so
my gosh.
because you start imagining a holistic beauty of life, and it's so easy to upsell you, but I think it's important to remember AI is not here to help you save money.
And then the fact that it says college students are expected to spend a staggering $103.5 billion on back-to-school shopping this year.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's the second largest spike in
I mean, I feel
retail
like kids
stuff
aren't
after
learning
Christmas.
how to be disappointed. It's sort of like, no, you can't have that.
Well,
it's
they're
like,
not
yes, I can
also-
because Sally and Joey and whatever have it, so I have to have it. I
Okay.
can't not have it.
So what happened to having a budget and then knowing that you had to do something creative within those boundaries? And I always believe that creativity is a function of repression. When you have these kinds of constraints on you, how creative can you be to be outside them? So I remember when I was at Simmons College in Boston and I was in Music Hall, and it was, the cinder block, whatever, and I had a roommate. And the woman down the hall, Roberta Story, I'll never forget her. She was so creative. And she did incredible things with milk crates.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, that's extraordinary. And I used to
And
cut
did you
out,
feel like you had to go do the same thing?
I did. I put some milk crates.
Yeah, I was like, I need to really innovate in the milk crate space right now. I'll be back.
I also cut pictures out of magazines and made collages on my wall for art. That was great. But my big desire was to never have a roommate. I couldn't wait to get a single.
I mean, the thing is like, imagine doing that, and imagine having two people in your dorm area going, oh, that's cool, and let me do that. Now multiply that by 500,000 followers who now are looking at your room. And these kids this is causing anxiety among these kids
but I also
and
think
parents.
That what you're talking about, Joyce, is like the slow and steady development of taste that comes through restrictions.
Exactly.
To be fair, 17, 18-year-olds have never been known for
they don't need it.
keenly
They have
developed
AI.
No, but this is the first time they have a space that they can do.
that is true.
But
So
they have
why
AI. They
flood
don't have
them?
to be creative.
Exactly. And this is another problem with AI. You don't want people feeding you ideas. You want to generate something yourself and figure out, who is this? Who am I?
I don't know.
Who am I? So, we're being robbed of that experience.
I want to meet the people that are actually being paid to do this, because it's a whole new business now.
Okay, so we have to move on, even though I'd like to spend more time in our dorm room, maybe put an elephant in there or something like that. Let's do our little, what we used to call the lightning round, but our picks for what's coming up for the weekend, the last weekend of the summer.
Last weekend of the summer. Well, actually, I have two. One is there's a Donna Summer dance party tonight, so make sure you check that out at City Hall. But there's also Classic Black Movies is doing Do the Right Thing at the National Center for African American Artists at 7 p.m. on the lawn. It's been going on all summer. This is their last one, so check it out. Do the Right Thing. We're actually doing a conversation about that this week, so we're really excited.
Wonderful. Kate?
I recommend going to one of the many AMCs in the area and enjoying a Dolly Parton film. They are they are rescreening a couple of them. They will, including Steel Magnolias, which is my favorite. So I recommend
won't
that.
get an argument from me. Also, this Saturday, there's a festival in Chelsea. The entire Chelsea TheatreWorks building is going to come alive with free performances, a beer garden, local food and craft vendors, music, art, youth activities, workshops, a costume conversion show, a performance of Midsummer-ish by Apollinaire Theater, and Chelsea TheatreWorks is doing something else. And but go there because it's going to be fun. Just go to Chelsea Square in front of the theater. This has been a blast. Thank you so much for listening to another edition of The Culture Show. Lisa Simmons is Artistic and Executive Director of the Roxbury International Film Festival and Program Manager at Mass Cultural Council. Kate Dellis is a producer for The Culture Show. A reminder to rewatch Do the Right Thing this weekend. Next Wednesday is our Wednesday watch party. We're revisiting Spike Lee's classic 1989 film, asking you how it resonates today. I'm Joyce Kulhawick, arts and entertainment critic, president of the Boston Theater Critics Association. Find my reviews at joyceschoices.com. Thanks to Henry Santoro for curating our Culture Cast, our engineering team in Brighton, engineering logistics crew at Boston Public Library. Additional gratitude to the Newsfeed Cafe, the Lenox Hotel, and our security team, Darius and Derek. I'm Joyce Kulhawick. Have a great weekend.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Where's Mary? Where is she? Where is she? She's just about to close up the library.